Hey everybody, Carrie Silken, Ring of Honor Ambassador, and I'm on here with Count It Out with Mike and Tyler. Check us out.
Take a walk around the world and keep your hands to yourself. To the point, 'cause you know I won't be listening long.
Thank you for coming. Welcome to the pre-show for Barrie Wrestling's Back to School 9. We are doing a live edition of our podcast, Count It Out with Mike and Tyler. So I guess I should start off the way that we start off every single week on that show. We are live, pals, and welcome to another edition of the Bill Apter Sealed of Approved, Count It Out with Mike and Tyler. My name is Tyler. This is Mojito Mike over here. And of course, we have our very special guest. He's kind of a big deal around here. He is the longest reigning Barrie Wrestling Three Pistols champion. Of course, I am talking about Myung Jae Lee. I'm saving the big intro for later tonight, okay? So
Thank you.
So Jay, thanks for sitting down with us. Thanks for taking some time with us. Now, I want to ask you a really heavy-hitting question right off the bat here, okay? Normally, we'd like to have some fun on Count It Out, but you've kind of been in a little bit of controversy that I've seen on social media.
What controversy?
And I have it on very reliable sources, as a matter of fact, that you took a $50,000 bribe to try to get Daniel Garcia fired from AEW.
I did not. I did not.
No, of course, I'm just kidding. That was a tweet that Puff put out. But
Yeah.
we want to talk a little bit about your experience with AEW. We want to talk a little bit about your experiences with the Buffalo Training School. And let's start right there, man. The Buffalo Boys are taking over not just the the American scene, but over here in Canada, all in North America. What's in the water with Buffalo, man? Take us inside that training camp.
Honestly, so the Buffalo Boys, they really set the tone for the whole entire school once they started getting on the road and getting booked at other places. They found what works and what doesn't work, and then they just all brought that information back to the school, so people like me were able to benefit from their experiences.
Now, tonight's really special for us because 2 years ago at this event, we made our debut here at Barrie Wrestling. So did you. You've been here now for 2 years, and in 2 years, you've become the Barrie Faithfuls, one of their favorites. Yeah, not only a favorite of the Barrie Faithful, but the longest reigning Three Pistols champion of all time. Now, the question is, where do you go from here? You can just keep defending that title for the next 2 years. You know, there's more titles to go after. Here's a title. I'm going to put you on the spot here because there's a guy in the back, I'm pretty sure, that he has a title that I don't think anybody's going for. And if anybody could, it'd be you. There's a man named Fuerza, who they call Mr. Everything Barrie.
Oh.
Do you ever have your eyes on a guy like that to be the man in Barrie Wrestling?
Of course, I would love to be the man of Barrie Wrestling, but Fuerza's another level, It's going to take a long time to get to how good he is. But yeah.
Well, we did talk about championships in Barrie Wrestling, and the man that you defeated for that Three Pistol Championship is the current Barrie Wrestling heavyweight champion. I'm not allowed to say his name because I get in a lot of trouble from him if I do, so I'm not going to say it, but is that something maybe we could see title for title? Is that something you got your eye on?
Well, I beat him once, so I would love to beat him again. I've proven it before. I've been the Three Pistols champion for a long time, so maybe I need something new.
Let's go outside of Barrie for just 1 second, because as Barrie Faithful, we watch Myung Jae Lee everywhere. We watch IWTV. You all watch IWTV, right? And we watch IWTV everywhere you go. And there's a guy that's all over the wrestling world that you're going to be facing soon. Can you tell me, you have a match against Speedball Mike Bailey coming up. What's your mindset going up against probably the best wrestler in the world right now?
So I recently wrestled him in a tag team match, and me and Evil Uno won that match. So I have some experience with Speedball. and I've been around him a lot in locker rooms. So I think I can get under his skin maybe and just try to avoid his kicks and avoid his strikes. Maybe get some of my own in there, or completely change the game and alter my own style in order to get the advantage on him.
I want to shift back over. I want to talk about a guy that you're very familiar with, a good friend of yours. We mentioned him a little bit earlier, of course, Puff. How fun is it going down the road with him? How much heat did he get in for breaking his record, holding that title longer than him?
Oh man, not fun at all. I hate riding with Puff. He's something. He was really upset when I broke his reign, and I think in the month of June or July, one of them, I forget which, I wrestled him 3 times at 3 separate promotions. So I was able to get my aggression and anger out on Puff.
Now we talked, you've been here for exactly 2 years, and in those 2 years, somehow, some way, you've become you've had the match of the year twice here in Barrie Wrestling, voted by the Barrie faithful. Are there goals now that you set for yourself, or is there things where you're like, okay, I've done that, I've been match of the year, I've been match of the year again. What's next from Myung Jae Lee? I know you're the kind of guy, you're never going to be complacent. There's never a roof for you. What's in your brain when you say, this is what I want to do next?
Well, it's an honor to have won match of the year twice for pretty long matches, and I kind of wish I could just get the job done quicker and not have to wrestle as long and not have to get beat up as long. So hopefully shortening those match times down, and we'll see how it is tonight because I have a big challenge ahead of me. So.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that later tonight. Big title defense for you. A person that you've caught their eye a little bit here. I've been following social media. Kerry Silkin, former Ring of Honor owner, he loves you. I saw him wearing the Myung Jae Lee shirt. If you go into the archives, that counted out 7 on YouTube. Cheap plug, of course. We did an interview with Kerry Silkin as well. How did you meet up with Kerry, and where did this little friendship come from you guys have?
I was at a show in Pennsylvania, and I wrestled Cheeseburger. And Kerry came just to come say hi to the old Ring of Honor guys. And he went out in the crowd and watched, it was a show that didn't have a barricade, and it didn't have seats or anything. It was standing room. So Kerry was right on the apron watching me versus Cheeseburger. And when I came to the back, he was there in the back and was very impressed. We exchanged phone numbers, and he followed me and got a T-shirt. So.
Now, in the last few years, you've wrestled some of the greatest wrestlers on the planet right now. You've gone up against the likes of Josh Alexander. You're going up against one-on-one against Speedball Mike Bailey. Are you at the point, and you've wrestled the 90% of the greatest the Barrie has to offer. Is there anybody on your radar where you say, I still haven't gotten in the ring with that? Do you have any dream matches from Myung Jae Lee?
So I love going against the big names. It's always a test for myself, but I also look to wrestle anyone that's around my same experience level or just grinding as hard as I am. Some of my favorite matches are against Hot Stepper McCrae Martin, Big Boy Junior Benito, and Fancy Ryan Clancy, all of these people that are trying to just wrestle everywhere and wrestle as much as possible. So there's a few names on my list that I would like to wrestle more. I just got to wrestle Austin Luke, who was big on my list. But a guy like Marcus Mathers, a guy like CPA over here I would love to wrestle. Just anyone around this same experience level, I'd say.
So we talked about a little bit earlier, doing the training with Daniel Garcia and the school, and he's doing amazing things in AEW. I want to talk about your AEW experience in a minute as well. Any chance that you taught Daniel Garcia his famous dance? Are you a dancer there, Jae Lee? Is that all you were?
I did not teach him his favorite dance. That's always been in him. He loves dancing on the weekends in the club. If you watch Isaiah Cassidy's vlogs, you'll see more of that side of him. And yeah, no, I did not teach him that, but he has taught me a lot of wrestling.
Now, our gimmick here at Counted Out is we do a top 7 list every single week. And in a few weeks, if you guys pay attention to Counted Out 7, anywhere you listen to your podcasts, we're going to bring Myung Jae Lee back, and we're going to count down the top 7 Myung Jae Lee 3 Pistols Championship title defenses. Now, in a few minutes, I'm going to give you a little sneak peek at that list. And before I get there, though, I'd like to know from you, over the last, doesn't have to be a title defense, but in the last 2 years, do you have a match you look back on and you're like, holy shit, I can't believe I did that? Do you have a favorite match here in Barrie so far?
There's a few. I look fondly on, like I said earlier, my defenses against Junior and Hot Stepper. I enjoyed my first win against John Atlas a lot. I think my win against John Atlas was the first time that the Barrie crowd chanted my name, Myung Jae Lee, Myung Jae Lee. And it's a Korean name, it's hard to pronounce, so that was very cool to me. So those are some of my favorite matches at Barrie.
I want to talk about your AEW experience. You know, we saw you. You got to work with the Kingdom, which is fantastic. We've seen you do some, like on-air sketches where you took a big boot and stuff like that. How much fun are you having with AEW? But more importantly, is there anyone that's giving you advice back there of what the next step is and maybe how to see you on those shows a little bit more?
Doing extra work for AEW it can be fun. You're there at the arena for a long day, so it can get very tiring. But people just kind of walk by, and if they know you from other shows, they'll come up, say hi, reconnect, and that's always great. Otherwise, just being there and eating the catering is fantastic. I know they had some to-go containers, and I took a bunch of pieces of salmon the last time I was there. Ate it for my lunch the next day, so that's probably my favorite part about doing extra work there.
A couple months ago, right here at Golden Glory, you had a match right in this ring with one Gabriel Fuerza.
Yes.
And I think this is the first time in the 2 years I've been watching you where this crowd is actually split 50-50. There wasn't 100% support behind Myung Jae Lee. We've never seen that before. How does that affect you when you're trying to wrestle either during the match or even after the match? Do you take that home with you, or do you just let that slide off?
I do take that home with me. It threw me in that match, actually. I was not expecting that reaction. And I think if you go back and watch that match, I think you see that I kind of get a little more angry and a little more aggressive. And that was for sure because of the crowd reaction being split. I also forgot one of my other favorite matches here at Barrie, Judas Icarus. I really like wrestling Judas Icarus, and he should be everywhere.
Yes, did you hear that, Sean Gibson? Bring Judas Icarus back to Barrie Wrestling, okay?
Please.
We want to see that. Give him a rematch even. We want to see you guys in there, or with anybody, of course, right? For me, I think a big match that you had, and I think it was a turning point for your Barrie career, was against Tarek. You guys beat the crap out of each other. You literally looked like somebody took a cheese grater to your chest after that match.
Yeah.
What do you remember about that match, and did you feel that was kind of like the moment that you got accepted here?
Yes, I do think it was like the moment that I got accepted here, just because can I swear? I got my ass kicked, and you're right, Tarek did beat me up, but it was such a fun learning experience, and all the beatings and everything, it just motivates me more to wrestle better.
Now, we want to thank you very much for your time here, Myung Jae. We know you have a busy night in front of you. I don't know if you all saw the social media post earlier today, but Myung Jae Lee's match has changed for today, and you're going up against Brett Banks for your title. That's a huge match for you, so we're not going to bother you too much longer. But before we let you go, I told these people to give them a little sneak peek. So what we're going to do, I'm going to give you the number 7 and the number 6 off my list, and then we'll do the number 5 on the show. So these are the top 7 Three Pistols title defenses by Myung Jae Lee. We're going to start with the number 7, the good old number 7, as we call it on the show. We're going back to The Heat Is On, and it's your first title defense against Jax Williams.
Oh, yeah.
What do you remember about that match?
I remember not having feeling in my leg during that match because I was dealing with a back issue that was causing me to have sciatica down the leg. So my kicks to Jax were a little heavier than they should have been probably.
And then number 6, we go to Barrie Wrestling Presents I Will Give You Everything, where you took on the big boy, Junior Benito.
Yes. Like I said, another one of my favorite opponents anywhere. That was the second time that I wrestled him. And the first time I wrestled him was at C4 Wrestling in my debut for C4, and I lost that one. I won this Barrie one. And then a few months down the line, I wrestled him a third time, and it was a draw. So now we are 1-1-1.
We need it one more time here in Barrie Wrestling. We love seeing Junior up here.
I just teamed with Junior at a show right outside of Montreal, and it was tons of fun. So if Sean Gibson ever brings back a car from that area, he's not listening right now. He doesn't know what I'm saying. He's just got his hands on his hips. But
That's a show day Sean moment right now.
Sean Gibson should book guys like Junior Benito, Hot Stepper McRae Martin, Cecil Nix. Who else am I forgetting? Dark Horse Dexter Doom. Just bring a whole car.
See, and you'd fit in great with Junior and Hot Stepper because you could just rip off the Garcia dance, right?
I could.
So I want to just bring it home here. I want to ask you 2 quick questions here. I want to talk about the main event tonight with Brett Banks. I know that this is a match that you have wanted for a long time. Tell me a little bit about your feelings going into tonight. Tell me how much this match means to you, and why is this such a big deal for you to be working with Brent? Obviously, he's fantastic, but...
Well, first of all, I was shook up because I didn't know that the match was going to change until I was tagged on Instagram. I was like, oh, that's different. That's not what I was preparing for. But I guess I'll do my best. I know he's really good, and he's been around for a lot longer than I've been. And he's wrestled guys like Roderick Strong. So I know I'll have my work cut out for tonight, but I'm just going to fight as hard as I can.
I love that. Before I ask my last question, I follow your social media all the time. Give everybody your plug of social medias.
Okay. My Instagram and Twitter are at MyungJae98. That's MyungJae98.
I know that you're a big ice cream fan. I follow that. So what's the go-to ice cream for me? I got to say it's a Baskin-Robbins chocolate chip, mint chocolate chip combo, but that's just me.
I don't know if I have a favorite flavor of ice cream, but my go-to whenever it's like just default, I like a orange and vanilla twist or a creamsicle with rainbow sprinkles. I also love cotton candy ice cream.
Gotta respect that.
Yeah.
I actually just spent some time in Buffalo a couple weeks ago. Give a plug to Duff's Wings. They're not messing around there.
I love Duff's.
Where medium is hot, right? Good stuff.
Yes.
You guys are in the Buffalo area. Make sure you check out Myung Jae Lee. Not only Buffalo, he's all over North America. The last question I want to ask you before we let you go prepare for your big match tonight, I'm going to turn over to Mike to take us home. I always ask this to end every interview we do. You've done a lot so far in your short career. When you take a step back, is there any moments that you have personally, whether it's in the ring, outside of the ring, that just make you smile?
A ton. And a lot of them are outside of the ring, from the kindness and getting able to hang out with other talent in the back. So I do the long drives and everything, not necessarily because I like the wrestling, but because I like the people around it. So.
Well, I can speak on behalf of Mike on this one. 2 years ago, we met you at your first Barrie Wrestling show. You've been a friend ever since then. We love you. We can't thank you enough for doing this today. Happy 2-year anniversary to you for Barrie Wrestling. Congratulations on all your success. It's the title reign here. I'm going to turn it over to Mike, and he's going to take us home.
Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for Back to School 9? We're going to let Myung Jae Lee go get ready. We want you to get pumped up. And until then, you have all been counted out. Thank you for coming out, guys.
So we just finished, you guys finished listening to the live in-ring podcast that we did with Mr. Myung Jae Lee here. We are here to finish off the countdown list, to have a little bit more of a conversation. Before we get into anything, though, thank you again for doing that with us in the ring. That was bucket list stuff for Mike and I. We've always wanted to do a live podcast, and kind of full circle with both of our Barrie Wrestling birthdays and anniversaries there, and we both had our first show together. So we appreciate you helping us out and being so good with your time with us.
Of course. Thank you for having me for your first live podcast there. It was tons of fun.
Yeah, it was great. You know, the crowd seemed to enjoy it from what I gathered. I don't know. And you'd have a better idea of that feeling out stuff in the ring. But we're going to talk about some more of your matches in a bit. But first things first, when we recorded that a couple weeks ago, the list hadn't come out yet. But congratulations, number 481 on the PWI 500. That's an incredible accomplishment, man. How are you feeling about that?
Thank you. I feel really good. So I had no idea that I was going to be on it, and when I was going through the list, I was very excited to see my name. It's something that I've like paid attention to, and I know some people have different feelings about it. I know that it's like only a certain group of people that like come up with this list, but it's very cool and I'm honored to be on it, you know.
Yeah, I think you absolutely should be. You know, like there's a lot more than 500 wrestlers all over the world. So for your body of work to have done something to catch somebody's eye, you know, it doesn't matter. You know, it's like the star rating thing where everybody has their opinions on star ratings and stuff. But the fact that this list has been around since 1990, I believe, 989 might have been the first one, and so it's got credibility. It's a well-respected list, and your body of work has definitely stood out, and you got noticed, and I am so proud of you for that, man.
Oh, thank you so much. It's also something that I can finally like tell my friends and family that don't really understand wrestling, like, hey, look, you can get this magazine on the shelves at this store, you know, like, and that's me. So
That's
that's
super
kind of cool
cool.
too.
Did you buy a copy yourself? Do you have a copy of it?
I've got the digital version. I think the actual print version comes out in stores today when we're
Oh,
recording this. Yeah. So it
beauty.
was a few weeks, but yeah.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, we were pumped up when we saw that. A lot of great, North American talent at an independent level on that list as well. I want to talk a little bit about your style in the ring because it's incredible. It's very high intensity, very high impact. When you're in there, and you build up your matches and you get to this physicalness where you're getting chopped hard and you're throwing the chops back. Like, what's that buildup like inside of the ring where you get to that level? Like, kind of walk us through the process. Does it take you a little bit of time to get in that like killer instinct mode? Like, you got to get hit a couple times, or
Well, going into most of my matches, almost all of my opponents are much bigger than me. So I know that I'm gonna get hit hard. So like I'm mentally prepared to also hit hard right back. Um, Being a smaller guy, it's kind of just like what you have to do if you want to, not just get pushed around in the ring and everything like that. So it does really help when you're out there and the fans are into the match and like you can feel their energy. That just makes everything flow easier. And then like it helps me keep that level of intensity or even like raise the intensity. So.
so two-part question here then. Who hits the hardest? What's the hardest you've ever been hit by somebody in the ring? And who have you hit the hardest in the ring?
Oh man. I think so. The two people that stick out to me that have hit the hardest have actually been pretty recent matches, and they didn't happen at Barrie, but Speedball Mike Bailey and Kevin Koo. Uh, I guess also Kevin Blackwood hits pretty hard as well.
Oh yeah,
Um,
we'll be talking about him for sure.
yeah, those are some that stick out to me. And who have I hit the hardest? I've gotten a few people, so I knew going into my match with Speedball that he was going to hit really hard, so I was prepared to give it right back. So I think I did. And then also there in my match with Evil Uno, I really got him on one specific kick, and in the back I was like, I'm so sorry. But yeah.
That's amazing. Let's talk about your match with Speedball. You guys were over in C4 Wrestling there. Great promotion. Always putting on big matches. I watched that match last week and I had very high expectations. I think I messaged you before and I was like, hey, man, like, you guys are going to have a great match. I'm so excited for it. I had high expectations for it and they blew my expectations out of the water. It might be one of my favorite matches I've ever seen you have. How are you feeling after that match? Is that something you look back on and you're proud of?
I am pretty proud of it. I was kind of nervous going into it, but after going through it and all and watching it back and seeing the response it's gotten on social media and everything, I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah, and Speedball, like that guy, he's everywhere. Like, every WrestleMania weekend, he's working like 50 matches. He's all over America. It's Impact Wrestling. So to get in there and hold your own, that must have been pretty awesome for you.
Absolutely.
So I gotta ask you, we talked about a little bit on the live show, the Daniel Garcia dance.
Yeah.
When is the first time that you saw the Daniel Garcia dance? And then how wild is it to see, with your friendship with him, to him dancing with Tony Khan in our Ash Stadium for AEW? Like that's some wild stuff, right?
Yeah. So honestly, I haven't seen that specific dance before he brought it to TV, but I saw some of his other dances. And it's just been in like some cars that we're in together. Whenever a certain song would come on, he would like start dancing, grooving. He'd like put his hand over his face, do this type of stuff. But so that was always a good time. A lot of it would most of the time that would come on, it would mostly be a song with Spanish lyrics, for some reason. Um, but yeah, and it's so cool to see him do that on live television.
Yeah,
It's
with
it's
Tony
great to
Khan, like that's crazy.
yeah, absolutely. It's really cool to see his evolution too, going from like this very good wrestler, but also showing, what he can do on the sports entertainment side, as he likes to say.
I love the evolution of what he's done. When AEW came to Toronto the first time, I was in the front row for it, and we started a big wrestling sucks chant because it was right after he did his like official heel turn or whatever, and that got a pop. You
Hmm.
could see a couple of them in the ring, Daddy Magic, and then we're kind of giving the thumbs up, like pop into it. Um,
Hmm.
the last time you were on our show for like an official interview like this, we were just coming out of that blood and guts match that Garcia was in. So now we're seeing, from there to the dancing to the sports entertainment. And now, Don Callis has got his fingers in it with him. Like the sky's the limit for Garcia. What's your big takeaway? Because you've been in there, he trained you, you've been in the ring with him multiple times. Are you continuing to learn from him to this day, just even by watching him on TV?
Of course, watching what he does, there's, studying some of his matches are always a good thing, but also because I do know him, I can go to him for advice. And it's so encouraging. Like part of the reason why I was able to do extra work not that long ago was because of him. Um, but even like up before my match with Speedball, I texted him for some advice on that too. So,
Nice. So let's talk about your AEW work a little bit there. You said Daniel kind of get your foot in the door a little bit there, but you held your own. All the appearances that I've seen you do, they've been entertaining. I know your tag match, it was short, but the bump that you took in that match was crazy on the apron. You did the little promo segment where you're the backstage producer and you got that huge boot where you tumbled down the ramp. What's your
mhm.
experiences been like with AEW? Who is anyone pulling you aside backstage and given you any advice, or have you gotten to pick the brain of any of the big talent that's back there?
It's pretty busy back there, so not necessarily advice. I mean, I do remember the first time being there, everyone kind of just watches the screen in the back, and just being around some of those people were very cool. I remember like Mark Henry was sitting there and like just kind of talking to everyone, even as the show was going on, and kind of analyzing what was going on during a match, and that was very cool to sit in on. Um, Otherwise, like for my appearances and stuff, I just Like I knew what I was gonna do, and I knew that I only had like one shot with both of those things, so I just tried to make it look as good as possible, you know?
Absolutely, absolutely. We're going to get into the list in a moment here. Before that, though, Mark Henry, you mentioned Mark Henry just triggered. I met Mark Henry one time. That man has the biggest hands possibly of all time, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Holy
He's
moly.
very big.
Yeah, he's huge. He's like you always know that he's big from watching him on TV. And then like when you see him, you're like, holy shit, like this guy's a
Yeah,
monster. But yeah, super nice. What a sweetheart he was to talk to, though. Yeah, he was a great guy.
absolutely.
So Barrie Wrestling match of the year, 2 years in a row. Lionel Knight and Kevin Blackwood, and we'll be talking about Kevin Blackwood a little bit later on here. Are we going for the hat trick this year? Do you have any matches that are standing out for you this year? Because this year in Barrie Wrestling, I was talking with Mike about this last night. This might be the best in-ring year that I've seen since I've started coming to Barrie Wrestling. The cage match, all the matches you're having, Landon and Holden. Like, there's been some wild stuff going on in there. You feeling a little bit of the pressure to go for the hat trick there?
I am feeling a little pressure. I know that everyone's been stepping their game up. I think some more eyes are getting on Barry Wrestling, which is a good thing. I like that guys like Bobby Orlando and CPA are coming up. I think that helps as well. But I think that also just creates an environment where everyone wants to put out their best work. Um, but yeah, I've had some pretty cool matches this year that I think might be contenders. I'm not entirely sure. I don't get to choose what ones like get, put out there for people to vote, but I've had some favorites for sure.
Yeah, you've had some bangers. We're going to talk about some in a minute. Before we get to that, this Saturday, Barrie Wrestling, Karma. This is why we don't get nice things. Was supposed to be a night for Brad Myers that we are going to celebrate him and his upcoming wedding. Kyle and Shiloh have taken over that, and they will now be getting married in the ring. I don't know. We'll have to talk off air about what you're bringing them for a gift. I want to make sure we don't get them the same thing. That would be embarrassing, right?
Right, right.
But you got a big triple threat match coming up here. Bobby Orlando, who we just talked about, who, by the way, like he put a promo out there. I don't know if you saw that, and
I
he
did see
disrespected
it.
the good name of ice cream. Like, is that
He
firing you up a
did.
little bit? Because I'm as an
It,
ice cream lover myself, I'm not too thrilled about that.
yeah, he's one of my friends, but when he did that, it I'm gonna come in there and I'm gonna hit him hard for that. And then
Yeah,
I'm gonna get ice cream after I beat him and I'm gonna rub it in his face.
and he's gonna pay for it too.
He will pay for my ice cream. Actually, not too long ago, another wrestler just took me out because he knows that I like ice cream and he also likes ice cream. And this wrestler, his name is Ultimo Ant. He's kind of from like Pennsylvania, but he paid for my ice cream not too long ago.
See, and Bobby Orlando's from Intercourse, Pennsylvania. So the Pennsylvania boys are picking up the tab,
Right,
right? And of
right,
course,
right.
we cannot forget about Leo Sparrow in there as well. What do you know about Leo? For me, I don't know a lot about Leo. I haven't had a chance to see him work too much, so I'm really I know the name, I know the buzz he's got, but I haven't got to see a lot of his work. So I'm excited to see that one. What are your thoughts on Leo going into this one?
I've been on a few shows with Leo, and from what I've seen, I'm very impressed. And I know that it's his debut at Barrie Wrestling. I think it might be his Canadian debut. I'm not entirely sure about that, but I think it is. And so I'm ready to like really put up a fight, like between Leo and between Bobby. I know that I'm gonna have a challenge. But yeah, Leo, he's a very good wrestler. He's wrestled MJF before. I don't know
No
if you know
kidding.
that.
I did not know that.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, that's wild.
You
One of
should go
your
seek that match out.
I
I don't know
will.
where it's posted, but it's a good one.
I'll check that out for sure. Yeah, I'm really getting into this whole MJF run that he's doing right now. I've been very open about my opinions on MJF on our show. I think he's a fantastic talent. When he was doing the heavy heel stuff, I thought maybe I wasn't a big fan of some of the swearing on national TV. I thought it was, I thought he was kind of more talented to, not that he's not talented. You know what I'm trying to say? Like that cheap kind of heat with the swearing I didn't like. But this best friend run he's on, like right now he's in contention for my wrestler of the year on the big stages. Like he's been fantastic.
Hmm.
All right. So last question I'm going to ask before we pick up on the list here. What has been your personal favorite Three Pistols title defense?
I think my personal favorite was against Judas Icarus.
Perfect.
Um, so I didn't know much about Judas going into this, but after we wrestled, we became really good friends. And I think we meshed well in that match as well. Like everything seemed to flow and everything seemed to deliver, and he was for sure one of like my favorite opponents that I've ever been in the ring with. And I would love to have a rematch with him one day.
I would love to see.
Um,
I rewatched that match yesterday just to prepare for this, and like I always forget like how good these matches are. Like because when I'm in the arena, I'll be getting pulled all over the place. You know, Sean's saying this or Jim's giving me notes or whatever. I got to run to the back to tell somebody something, so I don't get to watch like I used to watch. And I went back and watched
mhm.
this one the other day, and I mean, this is Mike's list that I'm presenting today, but that match it is fantastic. It could be a number one for all we know.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure one of my favorites.
So we made this list. Mike made this list before your match with Brett Banks. So I'm going to ask you real quick because that won't be on the list today because Mike he had his list and we started on a live show and we're going to stick to what it was. So the Brett Banks match obviously I think would make the list without a question. You guys tore the house down. That was a match though that I know that you personally really wanted for quite some time. What is it about Brett Banks that just drew you to want to have that match? And can you kind of just walk us through the match since we're not going to be talking about it on the list and just how you felt when it was all done and you know if you were happy with the match and whatnot.
I am very happy with the match. It is the match that I've been wanting, given Brent Banks's perception legacy around the Ontario Indies. I feel like, I kind of started right around the time that, we were coming out of the pandemic and he wasn't on shows around here. And once I heard that he was coming back, I got really excited and I was like, if he's available at any time, any promotion, please let me wrestle him. And so it was very cool to finally wrestle him. It was a little nerve-wracking because that's not the original announced match that was supposed to happen, and
Mhm.
I didn't find out pretty much until I got to the venue. Um, maybe a few minutes before, but still it was very cool. It was also very cool to main event. I think that was my first main event at Barrie Wrestling. So
That was my next question. Does that add an extra pressure to be in that main event spot?
it did actually. It did. And because when I really like the opening spot because I feel like you can set the tone for the whole night. Um, but being that main event, the crowd has already seen a lot of wrestling and you still want to hold their attention and stuff. And I think we did. I think we accomplished that, so I'm pretty happy with it.
100%. That was another could be a match of the year again. That could be your hat trick for all we know, right?
Absolutely.
All right. So as we just heard on the live show, Mike's number 7 was against Jack Williams, which we talked about in the ring, and his number 6 was against Junior Benito from I Will Give You Everything. So that brings us to the number 5 moment on Mike's list. And I actually do agree with Mike's list. Usually Mike and I don't agree on a lot. We have very different opinions of wrestling, which just makes our countdown show so fun when we argue and debate about things. But I have to I have to tip my cap to him. I think he did a pretty good job. He's got as the number 5 his personal favorite Myung Jae Lee 3 pistol title defense against Mr. El Diablo himself, Gabriel Fuerza from Golden Glory.
Mm,
So this is crazy. The fact that, this match is the number 5. I think that just goes to show the body of work that you've done as champion. Because it's got to be tough to argue that there's not a better wrestler, I'd even say almost in the world right now, than Gabriel Fuerza. He is on a
hmm
different level right now. What do you feel like coming into Barrie, into Gabriel's house? Him and Vaughn are big parts of building up Barrie Wrestling, defending the title against Mr. Everything, and just the talent that he is.
He is such an incredible talent. And that match, if we're pulling back the curtain a little bit, that match is we didn't have a lot to talk like to plan that match at all. We only had a few minutes, so a lot of that was on the fly, and I think it was also one of my favorites at Barry as well, um, given given all the circumstances. It was also one of the first times at Barry that I was like getting booed, and like the
Yeah.
crowd was very heavily on his side, which was very interesting to me, and a different dynamic for sure. Um, but yeah, Fuerza is like just an unbelievable talent. He recently has an he's got like an MCL, I think, injury to his knee, and I saw him re-injure it because I think he first hurt it at the last Barry show, and then I saw him at Destiny Wrestling
Yeah, he
this
did
past
Dango.
Saturday.
He worked
Yep,
Dango,
and
right?
he kind of re-injured it there,
Oh no.
but he was supposed to wrestle Ortiz on Sunday at Crossbody, and originally he thought he was going to have to pull out, but somehow, some way, he still showed up and he still had like a 20-minute match with Ortiz, and I have no clue how he did it. I don't know if he was in a lot of pain or not, but just unbelievable to watch. And when I was watching it, I went out to the crowd to watch it, and I almost had tears in my eyes.
That's incredible. That's an incredible story. I knew he was a little banged up. I had heard him say that as well. We actually had Ben on our show last week to talk about that match, and Ben told us on the show that this was a match that Ortiz requested, which I thought was awesome. Again, it shows the level of respect that the wrestling world has for Fuerza. I find it very interesting that you mentioned two things I want to talk about on this match. You mentioned that you didn't have a lot of time to kind of go over some stuff beforehand. How do you feel going into the ring like that? Do you like kind of calling stuff in the ring? Do you like to do you like to be out there and feel it, or
I like to have like a good mix of it. Sometimes when you're just putting together it's some parts it's just more natural to let everything flow and feel the crowd out there. But, sometimes it is nerve-wracking going in when you pretty much have nothing. Um, but it's a testament to like, I guess, how good of a wrestler you are. And I remember like my very first match, my debut match ever was just this terrible match because we forgot a spot. My opponent kept on trying to go back to the same exact spot. So I remember like the next day at training, I was like, please, I need to learn how to work on the fly, just like in case something like that happens, or just, for the future, if you are pressed on time and
yeah,
stuff.
absolutely. Absolutely. You always hear like some of the greats, like, Ric Flair and Harley Race are always just like going to go out for an hour and they just have a finish. That's mind
Mm.
blowing. Like that's incredible. The other thing you said I want to touch on, you got booed for the first time in Barrie Wrestling. I had I'm gonna say I say the pleasure, but I was a little nervous. I had to interview you after this match because I announced that you were working Puff at Canada Day, and you were
Mhm.
fired up. I've never seen that look in your eyes before. You gave me the microphone back a little more aggressively than you normally would have. I could see you were coming down from the big match. You mentioned in our live show that you didn't like being booed too much. How do you react to that when you're in the ring there? It kicked up the aggression a little bit, eh?
It did make me kick up the aggression a lot, and I do remember that after after match promo, and I remember I think I said that I don't need Puff anymore,
That's right.
which honestly I agree. Like I don't think I need Puff anymore, but yeah, I guess my emotions were running high too. But and then when I got to the back, I calmed down a little, but. Yeah, the Barry crowd turning on me, like
Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
you're
It was
like,
a weird feeling.
I get Ricky Steamboat vibes off you. I don't know how anybody could ever boo you. You're the best. You work hard in the ring. You're nice outside the ring. Shame on you, Barry Wrestling fans. I love you guys, but come on. And then poor Gabriel Fuerza had to take some extra hard kicks because of that too. We
Yeah,
got Mike.
absolutely.
We got Mike finally jumping in here. He'll be in a sec. But have you had a chance to work heel anywhere else? Like, have you got to show that side off yet?
Um, not fully heel. Not 100% fully heel. Kind of more of what you saw with my match with Fuerza, just kind of more aggressive. Um, for example, I wrestled Mikey Jenkins at that same crossbody show that Fuerza wrestled Ortiz, and he's a huge baby face there. Like everyone loves him there,
Mhm.
and he kind of has a face that you can't really hate either. It's he just looks cute and innocent, kind of, but like a I don't know, kind of like a big teddy bear. But so because of the crowd interaction there, I picked it up a notch, and I was a little bit more aggressive. Kind of washing his face in the corner and stuff like that. Just little things, but not fully heel. Because I
Everyone
still want to
needs.
just have a friendly, competitive match, at the end of the day.
I don't know. I think that the fans out there, they need to be careful because once you get that little taste, it could become infectious. You never know.
Hmm.
The next time we ask you to come on your show, you might tell us to hit the bricks because you're going to be bad guy now.
Oh man.
Speaking of calling things on the fly here, we just talked about how you and Flares had to call things on the fly. Mike, welcome to Count It Out.
How's it going, boys?
Hi.
I I'm covered in baby food. I'm disgusting. I smell like a 1 year old, but I made it because I wasn't allowing for the third week in a row Tyler to talk shit about me on my own show to my guests.
Oh man.
I may have buried Mike.
Yeah, yeah. Did he give you his normal intro when he brings a guest on the show without me? And he says, "Well, we upgraded this week." Yeah,
Well,
He
talking
did it
about
this
turning heel.
no,
time.
I actually put you
He
over this week. I said you're being a good dad.
he did. Yeah.
You hear that, Jay Lee? He doesn't think you're an upgrade. See, bad host, Tyler. Bad
Well,
Oh
host.
man.
or maybe we did the intro for the live portion in the ring, and this is part two of it, so I didn't need to do a second intro. Otherwise,
There we go.
we have a clear upgrade here. Like I feel the quality of the show has just gone down a notch. I do apologize,
Oh
everybody.
man.
Oh, for sure. I just totally pissed off a 1 year old in the other room by yelling. So
Uh-oh.
eh,
Well,
the
I
whole
will
world's gonna end.
let you know where we are right now, Mike. We're at your number 4 moment on your list.
Beauty.
We've recapped Jack Williams. We've recapped Junior Benito. We just had a great conversation about Fuerza, which you're gonna have to go back and listen to. And we're on the number 4 moment here, which from our prior conversation, Jay, I'm interested to see your take on the placement of this match.
This is a man that you brought up in our live show just a few weeks ago. Let's tear the band-aid off, if I may, Tyler. I not to come
it is your list.
not to come take away here, but yeah, I worked really hard on this list, and thank you, Jay, for giving me such amazing matches to work with here. This is one of
Of
the
course.
best. This is one of the best lists I've done as far as research goes, because like, there's so many lists. Like I'll give myself 30, 40 matches to watch, and 80% of them are dog shit. Where I only had to watch 10 matches of yours, and they were all fucking bangers, every single one of them. Speaking of bangers, we're going to go straight to It's a Long Way to the Top with your match against Judas Icarus.
Oh yeah, so Judas Icarus for sure. I think that might have been my favorite match at Barrie, like altogether since my entire time there.
Wow. Wow.
He's really a great talent.
Tell me what's so special about this guy, because this is one of the very rare guys. Sean Gibson flew this guy out from out west, I guess it was, right? So he talked about this a few weeks ago on our show right here. They've had names on the show, like he'll fly out. He's flown out guys like Joe Hendry, but on a double bill with Smash Wrestling or something like that, right? He's never fully put all the money out and said, this guy's worth the money. Let's get this guy out here from all the way out there. He did that with Judas Icarus for a guy that the majority of the Barrie crowd probably didn't know yet. What was so special about Judas to get him out for these matches?
I think it was a lot of the talent actually in Sean's ear telling him to book Judas. Um, And I think after he proved himself against Vertigo, it might have been a no-brainer for Sean to bring him back. But yeah, I think we're the exact same age, and we just meshed very well and everything. And yeah, for sure, one of my all-time favorite opponents.
Judas and Vertigo, and that was Judas's Barrie debut. I announced him from being from Vancouver, Ontario. So sorry, Judas. I do that.
You want
Sometimes.
to know something very funny about that? This is completely off topic. You announced him from Vancouver, Ontario. One of my favorite bands is coming to town, and they completely messed up their schedule thing, whatever, on their poster, and they announced that they're coming to Toronto, British Columbia.
There you go. See, I started a trend.
And which is the exact opposite. I had to
Yeah.
actually go in my way and research to make sure there wasn't an actual town called Toronto in British Columbia. There's not. They meant Toronto, Ontario, which is funny because they're actually playing at the Pickering Casino. What a mess.
That is a mess.
That said,
that's my Judas is not the worst botch I've had though. I always tell the
No, he's
story,
not.
but the first time that I announced Reverso, he's from Destruction Bay, Ukraine, and no, Yukon. And I just did it again, and I announced him from Ukraine. And Diamond Jim and Mike Jeffries were laughing so hard at me, like, "You idiot! He's from Yukon, not Ukraine." And I went back after the show and I apologized to him. I said, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." And he Reverso, as you know, is the greatest human being on the planet. He's such a great dude. He started laughing. He goes,
Mhm.
"Well, it's kind of tough to be a heel when you announce me from the biggest babyface country in the world, eh?"
Yeah.
I was like, "I'm so sorry."
well, you just set me up for the greatest segue, Tyler, because if we're going to talk about Reverso, we're going to go to what is new is bold again. We're going to talk about that 5-star triple threat match that Myung Jae Lee had with Gabriel Fuerza and Reverso. What I'm going to tell you something, Jay Lee. I'm not exactly a triple threat guy. All right. You have to sell me on a triple threat. I like my one-on-ones. I even like my four ways. Triple threats are hard for me. I'm like, they have to be really good for me to sink my teeth into a good three-way. Holy shit, man. You guys told like I'm a story guy. I like stories in my wrestling. I think it's hard to tell a really good story in a triple threat. You guys told such an amazing story, which had to be hard because there was already this solidified story, this great feud going on between Reverso and Fuerza. This didn't need you. You didn't have to be involved in this. The title didn't have to be involved in this. This story was good enough on its own. They didn't need to throw you in there. And I remember thinking, I was really afraid that they were going to waste you at this show by throwing you into this match. I love it when Sean Gibson proves me wrong because he knew what he was doing. He threw you in. It's my third favorite title defense you've had. One of my favorite matches this year. Tell us about this amazing triple threat match.
I had a lot of fun in that triple threat match. From what I can remember it too, like, there were just some fun things that we did that, I was I I've seen like some guys at the top in like WWE doing stuff, and I was like, I kind of want to try this, and working with them was just so great, so easy. But the thing that I remember the most about that match is when Reverso does his like acai moonsault
Oh
to the
yeah.
outside.
Mhm.
And I think his knees just completely hit the barricade, or
Oh,
maybe hit some
yeah.
fans even.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, also landing on me and Fuerza too, but I just remember thinking, like, is he okay?
We
um,
we actually used that for the build for the cage match as well. We used that
hmm,
spot because that was part of the reason why we had to put them in the cage, was because of the recklessness and putting the fans in danger. So they referenced back to that spot during their press conference as well to do that.
yeah, that was a crazy moment, and I vividly remember being there in that moment when that happened.
I
So
remember sitting back and watching it and hearing that noise. I was like, oh my God. Like, first of all, I thought he kicked a fan in the face, but I was more worried about his knee than anything. I was like, what happened? Like, because we're far back,
yeah,
right? But the thing I love most about this match show, and Mike, you alluded to it, it's the storytelling.
Mhm.
Reverso and Fuerza are in this feud. And I love the beginning sequence when you're kind of just like, hey guys, like I'm here. I want to
I'm
wrestle
still
too.
here. Yeah.
I want to wrestle too. But it was great because it elevated everybody when that match was done. It elevated the personal problems between Reverso and Fuerza. It elevated you by getting a win over these two guys, and it elevated Three Pistol title by you getting a win over these two guys as well. So, I mean, I hate to give a Pittsburgh Steeler fan credit, but I will say Sean gives a great job. Great job on this one.
I didn't even know that you liked the Steelers.
Well, we're Cincinnati
Yeah,
Bengals
don't
fans,
answer.
so we're not allowed. Like they're the Toby
Mm-hmm.
Flenderson to my world. This
I'm
is
so
also
sorry about Pippa.
no, this is my favorite thing ever. We
That's
are. I told you we're huge cat lovers on this show, so I
Okay.
know Adam
when
Content's going to be loving
whenever
this.
whenever a cat like bombs our show, I think it's over because Tyler, we've lost Tyler completely. He just wants to talk to your
Okay.
cat now.
Yeah,
you
I'm
mean
in.
nothing to Tyler anymore. He will interview your cat for the rest of the show.
Yeah.
I'm pretty pumped up
Um,
about this.
Before we move on, could you take me back? I'd really like to, if you could, if you don't mind, please feel free to say no. But if you can take us to the locker room for a minute before this match is happening, when you're sitting in the locker room with Fuerza and Reverso, and both these guys have amazing minds for the business. They know how to set up a match, as do you. But with this story already being told between these two guys, did you have any of the same fears that I did? Were you scared at all that they were going to go and make it about their story and that you were going to be the third wheel? Or was there never a doubt that this was going to be our story?
I I think it made it easier coming together with that story of the fact that they hated each other so much that I was kind of just added to it with the title and everything. I think that's a very cool dynamic. And so I think that made calling it and everything and performing just that much easier actually.
How do you feel about triple
That's
threat matches
fantastic.
personally? Because Mike mentioned, it's tough for him to get into triple threat matches. Sometimes you have to work for it. As a performer, do you enjoy the challenges that come, the different obstacles with the triple threat, or would you prefer a normal one-on-one?
So sometimes triple threats can be very cool, but ultimately, multi-mans of any kind are not particularly my favorite. I kind of like to be able to focus on one other person and just be able to tell a story between two people. Because sometimes when you throw more and more people into a match, things kind of get cluttered, chunky, messy, and it's just for sure it could be very easy depending on who you're working with, or it could be the most stressful time of your life. So I'm kind of indifferent. But like that Fuerza Reverso triple threat was for sure one of my favorite triple threats that I've been in.
Mike, before we move on to your number two, since this will be the last that we're talking about Fuerza on this list. Did Fuerza ever pull you aside, maybe privately? And you can tell us here, it's just us, okay? Did he ever pull you aside and say that Myung Jae Vertigo was better than Von Vertigo as a tag team partner on Canada Day?
No, he did not tell me that. I wish he did. I wish he did.
Come on, Fuerza. The man poured
I
his heart
know.
out there. That was so fun.
I
Mike, you
know.
missed that show, but it was Myung
I
Jae
I heard
Vertigo.
all about I heard all about that. I've seen a couple pictures. Brian showed me a few pictures of that, and
Yeah.
very funny stuff.
I had a limited
Tyler,
run of those 8x10s actually of me and Fuerza.
Tyler, I want to thank you for holding the fort down and not screwing up and scaring off Myung Jae Lee before I got here. So
I think he
my
only
gift
stuck
to you,
around
I'd
because I'm
like
wearing his shirt.
that's it.
Yes. Thank
Fine.
you.
So my gift to you, I would like you to present the number 2 here today.
All right. Well, the number two moment, according to Mike on his list, and Mike and I debated about this between the number two and the number one spot. This was my personal favorite for a long time. Then I went back and watched everything, and I just couldn't get a number one because I love the Judas match. I love the triple threat. But this one, we're going to go back to the Christmas Slammy reunion with Kevin Blackwood. Now, this must have been a pretty exciting match for you as well, because I know Kevin, he's one of the famous Buffalo boys. I'm not too sure if he's had a hand in helping with your training at all. I don't know exactly if he has, but for him to make a return to Barrie, where he made a great name for himself, and for him to be, just tearing the wrestling world on fire with PWG and I believe MLW now, and he's all over the place, how did you feel getting to step in there with one of your mentors, in such a high profile match and one of the biggest shows in the year for Barrie?
I felt I felt pretty good about it because he did have a hand in training me. And I know some of our moves are pretty similar as well, but because the during the pandemic, right, like coming out of it, our training school started doing like closed tapings, and I actually wrestled him twice within those closed tapings, and they weren't my favorite, you know. But I mean, granted, now I think I can chalk it up to experience, and how I didn't have any experience at that moment, but having this chance to put my title on the line at Barrie with his return and everything, it was pretty special. And I think it was one of the longest matches I've had at Barrie as well. And I'm pretty happy that, we put on a good show.
I'm not 100% sure if you're anything like me, but for me, I'm my own hardest critic all the time. Anytime I finish doing an interview or a recording show with Mike, I always tell Mike I hated it. Every time I'm done ring announcing, I say that I was terrible. You just mentioned that these matches with Blackwood weren't your favorite, the early days. Did you put extra pressure on yourself to kind of, was that in the back of your head going in this match? Like, this is the guy that trained me. Like, I want to show him what I can do.
For sure, for sure. I'm also one of those people. Like, I almost never think that, one of my matches is perfect, or I'm always for some reason focusing on the negatives instead of the positives. That's why like other matches on this list that I really love, like the Judas Icarus match and everything. Like when I say it's my favorite, it's like my favorite. Because like everything else I nitpick, so even like this match with Blackwood, the circumstances and everything, I loved what we were able to create and everything, but like something that sticks out to me as a performer is like, oh, I gotta work on my cardio from this Blackwood match. But ultimately, I'm happy that it made the list. And I would also put it up on that list as well. So
Well, I mean, the Barrie Wrestling fans tend to agree with it as well because it was the match of the year for Barrie Wrestling last year, which that's got to be pretty cool too, with the guy that trained you and you have the match of the year with him. I really appreciate you kind of pulling the curtain back there and talking about it from your personal level with the cardio. So what do you take away from that then? Like, have you done anything, like any different training to help work on that? Or like, what's your takeaway from that situation?
yeah, so after that, because I remember just being like really blown up after that match and being like exhausted. Which is also like, again, it was like probably one of my longest matches at Barrie. So but since then, like I've done a few different things to my training, focus more on cardio, focus more on breathing and stuff like that. Um, after after that match, maybe or a few matches after that, I don't really get as tired anymore in matches since I started switching my day to day up and everything like that. I also kind of changed my pre-match ritual up a little too. Now I put a little Vicks vapor rub on my chest to help open up my sinuses and everything, and to breathe better. And I found that actually does help me a lot.
Another thing I'm kind of curious about, when you're in that match and you're, as you said, I would never have been able to tell, but as you said, you were blown up during it. Is this where the crowd like has a big impact? Because the crowd, I remember being very loud for this match. I don't know. I'm not in there. I'm not even going to say half of a pop before one time when John Atlas was mean to me. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know what that adrenaline burst feels like. But is that something, you always hear people talk about what the crowd can do? And is that a moment where you have to feel that energy? Like, what goes through your head when you're like, oh shit, I'm blown up. Like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Well, first I have to tell the guy I'm wrestling, and I have to tell probably the ref as well. And then, that's going back to like calling things on the fly. That's where you have to like make some adjustments and stuff. But the fans and their energy does really help a lot with the adrenaline and everything, because you sometimes, like, when you're in the match and you feel that adrenaline, you just keep going. It's kind of like how some people who get hurt or injured in their match, they still continue on and finish the match because like you've got all that adrenaline. So yeah, what they say about that is very true. And it's also like part of the reason why wrestlers get addicted to wrestling, and why they do it even when they're well on past their prime, because that energy and everything is so infectious.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, there's a couple matches on this list for sure that and especially now after talking to you like about the Judas match and this match and the match we're about to talk about, where you can see it in your face almost that you're just so invested in what you're doing and in that moment. And I think that like really pulled these matches to a different level as well.
It's so funny you say there's a couple matches. There's 10 matches, and it's only a 7-match card. There's a reason that it's Myung Jae Lee on this list here today. One of the things I love to say on the show to my guests, and I mean it every single time, I don't suck dick on this show, Myung Jae Lee. I don't pander to people. If I say something, if I give you a compliment, it's because I mean it. There's a reason we wanted to do this list on your title run. Number one, if we did all your matches in Barrie, we'd be fucked. I wouldn't be able to do it. It'd be way too hard. 10 matches was hard enough for me to do all whatever 17, 18 matches you've had. Fuck that. But you're talking about how he looks invested in stuff. I think that's why I can't speak for many of the other federations, because I'm not invested in everywhere else. But the promotions I watch, Barrie, C4, these places that I watch quite intently, there's a reason why these crowds gravitate to Myung Jae Lee. They relate to you. You do look invested because there's no bullshit to you in that ring. There's no it's you've transcended character at this point. You know what I mean? They don't care as far as like Aaron and Jay are the same person. You are the same person. It's every person in that crowd, and they feel that. There's not that, those kind of characters don't exist anymore. Not a lot of them anyways. So people gravitate to you, and I could probably say the same the next guy we're going to talk about, but
that's also unless he's working Fuerza, because then they might not gravitate.
Well, that I think that's a Barrie thing. You can't fight Fuerza and Barrie. You just can't.
I'm sorry, I had to poke it.
I don't care who you are. The second coming of Jesus Christ can come down and face Fuerza. He's getting booed the fuck out of there. All right, in Barrie, anywhere else, Destiny will boo Fuerza out of that building if he's playing a heel. Fuerza can go anywhere else and get booed out of the building. He can come into Barrie, stand on Jim Lowe's desk, piss on Mike Jeffries' face, and they will fucking cheer that man. So the fact that you even got half the crowd on your side during that match is a fucking miracle. And that shows how relatable you are to that Barrie crowd. I do want to talk about that.
If that spot ever happens in Barrie, I hope I get a heads up for it to get out of the splash zone, because I sit right beside Mike Jeffries on those shows, so I just want to get out of the splash zone.
But anyways, my Myung Jae Lee's awesome hour is over here. I'll stop. I'll stop tugging you, and we'll get to the number one. But I'm going off what you said, Tyler. You're talking about how invested he looks in the ring. That's not just a handful of matches. That's every match I've ever seen him wrestle. Like that, and I think that's why he's so. Not only is he invested in the matches, the crowd is invested in him, and that's why Sean Gibson brings him back every single month. Speaking of people I'd love to see back in Barrie every single month, let's go to my number one. Jay, listen, man, this is probably the hardest year for me when it comes to match of the year. You won match of the year twice in Barrie. All right. This year is probably the hardest year for any fan to pick. 2023 has been a ridiculous year in independent wrestling, especially in Barrie. You have Mark Wheeler putting on fucking bangers every month until he got hurt. You have Fuerza, you have Reverso, you have all these guys, and then the guys that are coming in like Trent Seven and stuff. You know, you have all these people putting on amazing matches for Barrie, and then we have your amazing title run. You know what I mean? So we have all these things to vote for, but if it's up to me, my number one gets the call because it's my favorite match, not only of your title run, but it's my favorite match in Barrie Wrestling in 2023. It's my favorite match involving you thus far. And it's from my favorite show of Barrie thus far. Without a doubt, the best show they've ever put on, as far as I'm concerned. I hate myself for not being there, but I've watched it on IWTV 4 times because it's that good. We are going to the Cream Show where you fought the hot stepper McRae Martin. Let's talk about that, man. First of all, I want to ask you, does this match in your brain, does this match deserve to be in my number one spot?
I think it's got a good case. Yeah, that's also one of my favorite matches that I've had, especially it was about a year from the first time that me and Hot Stepper wrestled at Barrie. So it was really cool to see the year's progression, like what an entire year can do. Because you go back to that first match. I haven't watched our first match together in such a long time, but I remember at the time I thought that was good. But I remember this last time being like so happy with what we put out there, just because within that year we had become way closer friends. We had traveled together to like New Jersey, and we had been on, a lot of the same shows together, and just like getting to know McRae, on like a deep personal level. Like
He is one
not
of my
too long
favorite
ago.
people in the Indies. Yeah.
Yeah, like not
He's
too long
amazing.
ago, a few weeks ago, like I was driving to a show by myself, and I knew that him and Junior were also driving to a show by themselves. So I just called him up and we talked while both of us were driving and stuff. And so, like the two of them, Junior and Hot Stepper, are for sure some of like my best friends in wrestling. And to be able to have that match with him at Barrie, I remember like Mark Wheeler wrestled like I think it was Vinny Pacifico that
Yes, it was.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just remember like seeing the card and I was like, okay, we got to show out, and I think we did. And I'm very happy with it.
Yeah, like
You're on a card where you know that Fuerza and Reverso are fighting in a steel cage.
Right.
So, that that's coming up, and you have to be there. If I'm not mistaken, you were the opener, right?
Yeah.
I don't remember, but
I
probably.
want to say you were the.
It
I want
was,
to say
yeah,
you were
it
the opener.
was it was the opener because I remember dancing to Hot Stepper's music in the ring.
And, and that shows the genius of don't ever tell him I called him a genius. That shows the genius of Sean Gibson right there, because he knows that he's got this big thing at the end of the show. But how's he going to make the show pop right from the start? You put you and McRae Martin, two of the best in the indies, there. That sets the bar for this entire show. And
Absolutely.
holy shit, did you set that bar?
I think I actually had to fight for that position. I think originally on paper we were a different spot, and I was like, Sean, please put us first. Please put us first.
So you're the genius. I like that much better. I am much happier with that.
I think they might have
I'm
had
much happier
Wheeler.
with that.
I think they might have had Wheeler going out first originally, and I think they switched him. I think they switched it around. Yeah,
That's exactly what they did.
yeah, and I don't think anyone told me until about 5 minutes. So I almost was getting ready to announce Wheeler coming out first.
Yeah, I had to push real hard for that spot. Sean Gibson can, he's got his ideas sometimes, but you just really have to just yell at him in his ear.
And he's admitted that. He came on the show and he said that. He goes, "Listen, sometimes I have an idea and I want my idea or I don't want them to do with this, but if they're persistent enough and they don't stop bothering me about it and they keep going and I can see the passion, I'm going to let them do it, and 90% of the time they're right." And
Yeah.
so you prove right there that you were right, because a lot I want to say probably 8 out of your last 10 matches in Barrie, you were the opener. And they say that the two most important matches in a show are the opener and the closer. And you've been both this year. I think the only time in the last 5 or 6 shows that you weren't the opener is when you closed with Brent Banks. So that shows how important you are to Barrie, because you're the man who comes out and says, "Hey, not only am I, one of the best wrestlers on this scene right now, I'm also the Three Pistols champion right here in this company, and I'm going to show you why." And you do that every time in the opener. Now with this particular match, it's like, I was trying so hard not to be biased because I'm a huge McRae Martin fan as much as I am a fan of yours. I do think that McRae is a guy that is going to go high places, like by far. He's got everything. He's got the charisma, he's got the character, he's got the skill. Then you throw that against, and I don't want to take away from any other wrestlers, but he's the kind of guy, he's that Shawn Michaels who can go in and have a good match with almost anybody. But then you throw him against a Bret Hart. You know what I mean? When Shawn could have a good match with Doink the Clown, but he had masterpieces with Razor Ramon. He had masterpieces with Bret Hart. Well, this is McRae Martin. He had great matches with these other guys. Then he goes and he has masterpieces with Myung Jae Lee. Take me through the process of working this. You already wrestled him once in Barrie. Have you wrestled him like outside, like you wrestled him in C4 stuff like that, or is this only your second time wrestling?
I think it was only the second time I've wrestled him.
Wow.
Yeah. Um, but just, like I said before, kind of getting to know him within that year, I was kind of used to watching his matches like in the live audience and everything, and I'm sure he was used to watching my matches. And so I think that for sure helped. We kind of already knew what each other did and stuff. And yeah, I think we played to each other's strengths in this match for sure.
Yeah, this one for me personally, just on a personal level, I love this match. It is one of my favorite matches. It might be my personal favorite match because I love both you and him as human beings. I think you guys are so kind. I'd like to consider you both friends. You obviously, we've talked about our history multiple times, even throughout this show of our first Barrie show. With McRae, he was actually one of the first guests that we had involved with Barrie Wrestling. Before we made it to our first Barrie show, we were sponsors for the Ontario Cup. And McRae came on our show before we knew who each other were, and we did like a getting to know you segment with him because he was one of the young up and comers, and we became friends from there. We helped put him in contact with our friend Jonah, and he did an interview with Fandango on that show. And then just like running into him from shows, like he's just a great guy. And man, you guys
He is a
tore
great guy.
like you guys. He is. Every time you see him, he's a big hug. How you doing? Like it's just genuine with him. And just to see two people who I like to consider friends and who I have such the utmost respect for go in and tear it down. Like holy shit, Mike wasn't lying. Like you guys tore it down. That was probably in the top 2 loudest that I've felt in the ring when I do the show openings, was when his music hit and people knew like this is what was starting to show off. Like people were amped up for it. And I think it's like a testament to you guys on a match where Reverso did a freaking moonsault off the top of a steel cage, that this match still gets talked about. Because that cage match would overshadow 90% of any other matches throughout the year because it was crazy. It was the blow off to a huge feud, moonsaults off the cage, Flares was awesome, Reverse was awesome, but people still remembered and talked about this match at the end of the night too. So that's pretty cool. I think
this
by the
this whole show was
yeah,
phenomenal.
this was
The
the
other
card of the year with the worst name of the year, but cool design because I like Wu Tang a lot,
yeah,
so
I
like
like Wu Tang too.
it was
So
super cool.
yeah,
But yeah, I remember Puff put a tweet out because Puff missed this show, and I'll never forget he put a tweet out and he was like, "I can't believe I'm going to miss a show called Cream," and I just like just knowing Puff the way that he is, the gold he could have probably worked with on that night.
Is that the
the
show
one thing,
RJ City randomly showed up to
Yeah,
watch too?
yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so
RJ
like
City and
RJ
Doug.
City was just there.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
super cool. I looked over my shoulder. I'm like, what the hell? Like, he actually gave
Yeah.
us years ago, kayfabe.
yeah.
He gave us a nice show bumper for the show that night too. He was a super nice guy too.
Hmm.
Arj is one of my favorite people on the whole planet. Love that
Yeah,
guy.
you refereed one of his
Um,
matches, didn't you, Mike?
My very first time I ever ref was Rico
Wow.
Montana versus RJ City. Yeah, many,
Wow.
many moons ago. And I'll add to what you were talking about McRae. Like every time we see him, how we could just run into him and tell stories. One thing I do love is every time we are in McRae, me and him spend at least 10 minutes talking shit about Danny Franchise. And I can say that because I know Danny Franchise doesn't listen to this show because only my friends listen to this show. Danny Franchise. Sorry, Jay Lee. That's an inside joke that Danny Franchise won't get because he doesn't listen to my show.
I can vouch.
But anyways,
I
yeah.
I had to spend a whole weekend in Windsor for Impact Wrestling listening to them yell out at each other. So I can vouch. So
But
so
with that said, that's the list. That is the list. Tyler, I have a feeling you're not gonna. This is one of the first times you ever text me saying, I think I agree with your entire list.
I said it on air too. I was nice to Mike today. Myung Jae,
Yeah,
I was nice
yeah.
to Mike today. It's weird
You
for
were
me,
very
but
nice to him.
I mean, like the more that I watch that Judas Icarus match show, like the more I just want it. Like it just grows on you. You know what I mean? But I think you did a great job, Mike. Jay, how big is your head feeling today? Because we may have put you over a little bit today.
I mean, yeah, yeah. You guys really complimented. I'm honored. I'm flattered. Um, kind of like what we talked about before. I do get in my head a lot and stuff, and but things like the things that you guys are saying, things like the PWI, it does help me a lot feel better about my ability, I guess.
So as we wind down here, you've been great with your time, not only with the live version of this, but also, just kind of shooting the shit with us here and reliving some of these classic matches, which you can see on IWTV. Barrie 400, I believe, is the code for that. I should probably know that because I read it every month.
Oh yeah, all you have
yeah.
to do is type in Barrie in the search bar, and it all comes up. It's very easy to find.
What's left for you to do with the Three Pistol Championship right now? Like where's your vision with this? Because you're on a tear. You haven't been pinned in about a year and a half, give or take. You haven't lost a
Yeah.
match
Well,
in Barrie since you beat Hot Stepper the first time. I don't think so,
well,
at least.
I did notice during the live podcast you said that I was never pinned, and while I've kept the Three Pistols Championship, there is one day, I think it was either at Kempenfest or Canada. I
It
think it
might have
was
been Canada
Kempenfest.
Day.
I was in a three-way with Alexia Nicole and Evan Greenaway, and
Mm,
my title was not on the line,
that's right.
and Alexia won that match. So I think that was like my only loss.
Did she go over you or did she go over Evan?
I think over Evan. I forget though.
That doesn't count. Doesn't count.
Yeah, you weren't pinned. You weren't
pinned.
Yeah.
That was I think I read that during the intro for the main event. That was I blame Sean
Right.
Gibson. He wrote that.
Yeah.
Damn it, Sean! You're
course.
breaking my credibility over here, Sean. I have a hard enough time keeping it as it is. All right, I don't need your help, Sean.
No.
So yeah,
I want to
well, I want to hear what Jay's response.
Yep.
You've had this incredible run.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself going with this title now? Is there anybody that you got your eye on that you'd like to get in there and work? Like,
Well, I know that, I've had this title for a while. I'm happy to, wrestle guys like Bobby and Leo and anyone else who wants to step up. But I would also like to maybe also challenge for the heavyweight title at Barrie. And you guys did bring up the IWTV for Barry, like where you can watch their shows and stuff. My match graphic for the next C4 show was actually just announced, and I'm wrestling for the IWTV World Championship that Alec
Yeah.
Price currently holds. So,
Yeah, that
so
got
I,
sent to me today in my inbox, and I popped when I saw that.
mhm. So it would be very cool, very, very, very cool if I somehow win that match and I'm a double champ with the Three Pistols Championship and the IWTV World Championship because that's one of the only championships that's actually recognized by Pro Wrestling Illustrated outside of the major companies,
Oh, really?
which I think is very cool.
See,
Uh,
I like that. You have the three pistol over this shoulder, the IWTV championship over this shoulder, and maybe the Barrie Wrestling Heavyweight Championship around the waist.
that'd be
There you
great.
go.
I
You
don't know
did
if I
beat John
actually need to
Atlas.
be a Yeah, exactly. I don't know if I need to actually
Um,
be a heavyweight to
you're
win
not
that
allowed to
though.
say
I
that
think
name.
I
Oh, that's right. I'm not allowed to say his name.
oh, okay. It's
He
like
does not.
Voldemort.
Yeah, he does not like me to announce him. Nova told me that I was as unsatisfying as a unsalted pretzel at the last show.
Yeah,
Which hey, sometimes people put
I
too much
love
salt
that.
on pretzels. By the way, I
Mhm.
don't know. I I think that she was just flirting with me personally, but that's because I'm. It just eases the pain
I
because Top Gear Talent is so mean to me.
I want to reflect what Tyler said about thanking you for all your time for both these shows. But I'm going to be greeting and ask you one last question. Um, hopefully, it's a lengthy one because I want to hear as much as you'll give me. Um, give me one really good story. Give me one great Myung Jae Lee and Puff on the Road story.
Oh no. Oh no.
Now be careful because last time you gave an answer similar to this, you got picked up in the dirt sheets. All right.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, literally on another podcast. Oh man. I don't know. I've traveled with Puff for so long. I'm gonna expose Puff a little. He's not
Yeah,
just the
Yeah.
fun. He's not just the fun, happy-go-lucky guy that you see walking out through the curtain. Um,
I'm calling
one
Meltzer
of the
right now.
yeah, yes, good. Um, one of the last shows that we had for Black Label Pro, it's a whole 12-hour drive for me. Um, and it's only 8 hours for him, but it's 12 hours for me. And we do the show. We have to drive back. We were staying the night of the show, which was good. But I was like, hey, can we get up really early and so we can leave, get on the road, come on, please. I've got this long drive. I want to be home at a decent hour. I've got my real job the next day, like please. Um, and it was like, yeah, all right, all right. First of all, we leave like a whole hour later than I wanted to. But then on the way home, I think we stopped a total of like maybe 5 or 6 times. Like most of the time when you're on the road, you don't stop that much, unless you absolutely have to. Like if you absolutely have to get gas, or if you absolutely have to eat at that time, but most of the time that coincides when you stop and get gas. But we stopped so many times because Puff had to go to the bathroom so many times. And at at the at one of the stops, he went to the bathroom, walked out, met up with the rest of us, and then he was like, I have to go back in. And then he went back in for like probably 20 more minutes after that.
Holy shit.
Um so I didn't get home until like I think 2 or 3 hours later than I wanted to, which was not fun at all. And I blame Puff. Which was also crazy too, because one of the last stops, we were so close to Buffalo. We were so close to like Puff's house, and he just insisted on us stopping so we could order food from Sheets. And so we were waiting there too. and I just really wanted to get home. So yeah, it's not all fun on the road with God.
I love that. The last
Yeah.
question I want to ask you, and then we'll let Mike take it home. Who's a better dancer, Daniel Garcia or the Hot Stepper?
Whew.
We're asking
Don't
the
put me on the
hard-hitting
spot like
questions
that.
now. We're asking the
Don't put
hard-hitting
me on the spot
questions.
like that.
And I will
Oh my
clip this and
God.
tag both of them in it. So
Yeah, and then the dirt sheets are gonna pick this one up too. Well, Hot Stepper is a professionally trained dancer, so I think I'm gonna
Yes.
go with Hot Stepper.
But has he ever danced with Tony Khan before? I don't know.
I don't think he has.
I might have to give the nod to Garcia.
Maybe Junior Benito has.
Wow, there you
You
go.
never know.
Junior, the dark horse, Junior Benito. He
Ju
can
Ju
bust a move.
Junior Benito was knocked out by Jade Cargill one time.
I saw that. I
So
was there for that.
yeah, so maybe in the back with TK, maybe he was dancing. You never know. You never
He's
know.
like, you can get a bonus pay for getting knocked out, or you can dance with me. And he's like, I'm dancing with
Yeah,
the TK.
yeah. The last time I the
Dancing
last
with
time
the
I
snowman.
the last time I did extra work, I got a fist bump from TK.
There
So
you
that was
go.
cool.
There you
Yeah,
go. That's all right. See, you're like you got to go fist bump, then you'll get a handshake, then you'll do the Garcia dance, and then one day you might
yeah,
work your way up to the
And,
famous
and,
Tony
and
Khan
then,
hug.
yeah.
well, then
You never
signing the
know.
contract. That's
Yeah.
that's the
Well, you got
that's
to
the
get the
one you're
Yeah,
hug,
looking for.
right? Yeah, you got, and then you
Yeah.
get like you got the Triple H picture and the Tony Khan hug. That's like the two big things, right?
yes.
Yeah.
The hot
Oh,
stepper did go on record on our show to say that Josh Alexander was the worst dancer ever because of backyard pro wrestling. He hated that. So,
oh man, yeah.
Young Jay, I cannot thank you enough for all of your time with us. I could sit here and do this for another hour with you, but I know you're a busy man. We will be seeing you on Saturday as you defend your 3-pistol championship against Leo Sparrow and the ice cream wasting Bobby Orlando.
Yeah.
Mike,
Unbelievable.
you want to
Love
take us
Bobby.
home?
100%. I'm glad I made it on. It was important for me to jump onto this one. Young Jae Lee, again, thank you very much for being here. Thank you for being part of our very first ever live show at Barrie Wrestling. When I say very first, I do mean very first. It will not be our last. We'll be doing it again. Don't know when, but we'll 100% be there. The hard part is getting a better guest than Jae Lee. I don't know if
Set
it's
the bar
possible.
high. Set the bar high.
Set the bar way too high, which is what Jae Lee does every single Barrie show. And on behalf of some of the greatest matches in the history of Barrie Wrestling, we say thank you, Jae Lee, and you have been counted out.